When you're living in a household of people with poor boundaries, things can be pretty confusing. And this passage presents two extremes. It presents the perspective of someone who thinks they're completely innocent, they're totally clean, they do nothing wrong. Everybody else, someone else is responsible, but they are not. And then there's the person who's to blame for everything. And all you have to do is point the finger at them, and they're studying themselves and scrutinizing themselves and trying to figure out how to fix, what they did. So, um, this talks about step 8, listing those we'd harmed and trying to figure out how to make amends to them. And that can be a complex and confusing proposition. Here we go, April 10th. Having lived with addiction, many of us have come to think of ourselves as innocent victims of other people's abuse. It can be shocking to discover that we too have harmed others. Listing those we have harmed, step 8, becomes a discovery process in which a more realistic sense of responsibility can begin to develop. In my case, however, the problem was not in recognizing the harm I'd done, but in letting go of my exaggerated sense of responsibility. I thought that everyone I ever knew belonged on my list, especially those who were disappointed in me. For example, my parents are unhappy with the partner I have chosen. My sister wants me to pay off her debts. My kids wish I'd let them stay out all night without calling. As I thought about this step, I realized that I am not responsible for their unfulfilled desires. So when I revised my 8-step list, I needed to take their names off. Today's reminder. Certainly, I make choices that harm others and call for making amends. But sometimes a choice that is right for me may be uncomfortable or even unacceptable to others. Other people's expectations are not my responsibility unless I have helped to create them. I can remind myself that conflict is a part of life. The quote is, with this step, we sort out our part, taking responsibility for our actions, but also releasing ourselves from the burden of falsely held responsibilities. And the quote here is in all our affairs. I it's unrealistic to think, you can do your step 8 with a sponsor and it's kind of one and done. I, you know, I think as a spiritual person that God brings things to our awareness slowly, bit by bit, drip by drip, as we are able to take a look at them and deal with them, kind of transact business. So it's not something to be intimidated by. When you get to step 8, you do your best, and you know that slowly but surely your higher power, other people in the group, will confess and state things that prick your conscience and remind you in the manner in which you're responsible or not responsible. You'll sort things out. It just takes some time. It really does. Um, People with boundaries want you to take responsibility. People without boundaries want you to own their stuff. They need a scapegoat. Um, and so when you're being put on the defensive, you, when the minions are after you, the whole family's gossiping about you. They've all got their narrative, and it's all done behind your back where you're not there to defend yourself. That kind of stuff. Some people live under just incredible injustice. It's sad. But the goal is that we don't get to choose our biological family, but we do get to choose our friends. And sort it out with your friends, sort it out with someone who really knows you. Talk to God, seek the wisdom of others. But most of all, the goal of the 8th step is to get to a place of peace and to stay there. Don't let someone else rob you of your peace.